Hi, I'm here to respond to the cultural bound syndrome post, and it starts on page 242 to 244. And I just want to start off by saying that it states at the beginning, what is considered healthy in one society may be seen as unhealthy in another. So some of the cultural bound syndromes that I'm going to read might seem unhealthy to us mentally, like why would you think that? But if it's the social norm in their society and it's accepted, it really does not seem odd or weird to them. So the first one I want to talk about is China, if I'm pronouncing this right, coral, and it is an anxiety involving the fear that one's genitals, and this happens in women and men, are shrinking and retracting into the body and may result in death. It does say that the traditional Chinese belief about the balance of yin, what is female, and yang in male, um, when it is held during masturbation or nocturnal emissions, which means sleeping, an unhealthy loss of yang was thought to take place in an individual in an unbalanced condition. So they have these fears, basically, that have been passed down from generations to generations. So that's accepted in their culture, that is predominant in their culture, and it's an anxiety or a fear that has kind of evolved in their culture. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it's not normal to them. So when we're talking about some of these cultures, we have to remember to remain sensitive to some of these so-called fears that we might see as delusional or non-existent, but are very existent to these other cultures. Another one that I wanted to talk about was India. DOT is a disorder affecting Indian males and involves intense fear or anxiety over the loss of semen through ejaculations or through nocturnal emissions. So I'm starting to notice that with a lot of these minority cultures, that a lot of it has to do with it has to do with things sexually. So I wonder if this is because in the past there has been so much negativity about sex and when sex was prohibited, when it was not prohibited, to the point maybe that even thoughts about sex, maybe having dreams about sexual advances or anything of that sort might have kind of been not permitted in that culture. Maybe why when they had thoughts about that type of thing, about those kind of sexual encounters, maybe a fear was embedded and placed in them to try not to have those things because it was not prohibited in their culture, which kind of might have brought on these culture-bound syndromes. The same thing with Nigeria, with the missing genitals, the same type of thing. It typically happens with a male, and he might exchange greetings by shaking hands with another man, and is suddenly overcome by fear that his genitals have disappeared. So right now they believe in a supernatural force that is doing this. I'm not saying that another human necessarily has power over them, but it's a supernatural force that this man has chosen, and they believe that this may happen. If you flip the page backwards, it says on 241, under culture-bound syndromes, it says, medical anthropologists have known about seemingly unique forms of psychological illnesses for a long time, but they didn't know how to express them. So what they did was they didn't fit in any conventional classification system, but finally in 1994, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of the American Psychiatric Society, they acknowledged these existence of the culture-bound syndromes, and they define these culture-bound syndromes as reoccurrent, linked to a particular DSM-IV diagnostic category. So they are considered to be illnesses, so maybe mental illnesses. But what we have to do is be sensitive, because in our culture, anorexia and bulimia and depression are illnesses that we deal with day to day on everyday basis. Everyone knows someone who might have had an encounter experience with one of those type of mental disabilities, and We want someone to be sensitive to someone in that type of experience with our culture. We see people who are bulimic, people who are anorexic, and we want to help them. And we might not necessarily understand why they're doing it, or why would they starve themselves, or why would they have so much self-hatred towards themselves. But at the end of the day, we kind of understand it because it's culturally normal to us. That's what we're used to. We're not necessarily used to shaking hands with someone and our genitals may disappear, or we're not necessarily used to something happen with our genitals where they will shrink and, you know, disappear. So just like anorexia, bulimia, depression are cultural bound syndromes that we have, other cultures have their own syndromes that they have. So they might look at us like, that's not normal not to eat. Why would you starve yourself? Why would you do that? And then we're looking at them like, you know, why are you scared if you shake someone's hand? You know, so we kind of have to go hand in hand with both situations. And that's my response to cultural bound syndromes. Hope you enjoyed. Thank you.